Hi friends, welcome to TechHarvesting. In today's video, we'll have a look at how we can test APIs using Postman. So Postman is a very popular tool that is used for testing APIs to create requests, check if the APIs are working properly, and more. So in this video, let's have a look at creating requests with Postman. First, we'll try it out with a random API which I found on the internet, which gives us generated data, and then we'll use the Open Weather Map API and we'll look at query parameters, adding body to the request, and more. So let's get started. So in case you don't know what APIs are, I've already created a video on that, or you can just go ahead, search on YouTube for a tutorial on REST APIs. You'll get one. Watch that, understand what APIs are, and then in this video let's have a look at how we can test them. So API testing is basically just as simple as what it says. You are creating requests and checking out if your APIs are working properly. Now, we usually do this on our own APIs, but in this video, just to show you how you can use Postman, I'm not creating an API of my own, but instead using one from the internet that's hosted. So anyways, let's jump into Postman and get started. So to get started, you'll need to have the Postman app installed so that you can test our APIs. So to install Postman, you can go here to postman.com. I'll have a link to this in the description, and you can go ahead and download it from here. Anyways, to get started and have a look at how we can use Postman or any API client, in fact, first we'll go ahead and have an API. So you have two approaches here. In case you're a developer, you can go ahead and create your own API, as I've done in one of my previous videos explaining APIs, where I also used Postman to test them. And if you don't want to use an API, or if you don't want to create an API but you want to use one which is already built, you can use some free testing APIs. So for that, you can go here, and for example, you can use the JSON placeholder API to go ahead and create resources, get resources, and all of those things. And it's completely free, and let's have a look at how we can use this first. Then we'll go ahead and use the Open Weather Map API, which is a bit more complex, where we can go ahead and we can use an API key and get the weather for a particular place. So anyways, let's jump into Postman and get started. So you can go onto this website, jsonplaceholder.typecode.com, and then what you need to do is go here and copy this link. So this is our URL where we're going to send the request to. So here we're going to paste it, and then we're going to make it a GET request. And in case you don't have any tabs, by default you'll have a plus button here. Go ahead and click it to create a tab, and you can hit the send. When you hit send, you should be getting a response, and as you can see, we get this as a post with an ID, a title, and a body, and also the ID of the user who created it. Now that's simple, and that's what you do with a basic request. Now there are four or five main types of requests which are here, but there are others too, like hidden options. So the main ones are get, put, post, patch, and delete. So get requests are for getting data, so for getting data we created or that are already there. Post requests are for creating data, so you pass in some variables or some values and you create something on the server. Put requests and patch requests are both used for updating data, and delete requests, as you know, just as the name suggests, are used for deleting data. So here we are just getting the data from this API. Now, since this is not our own data, we cannot actually create things on the database, but this is a very flexible API, and with this you can also create resources. If you come down here, you can see how you can create something. So that you make a post request to the same API, but instead of giving one here, you just remove that. So you can go here, make a post request, and then here you'll need to go ahead and give the name, the title and the body. So for that, you click here, and here is the body. So each request has body, header, and other parameters too. So what parameters are, for example, if when you're sending a request, or if you make a Google search itself, you will see this search equals, and then you give something like this. So that's what's coming up here. So that's known as a parameter that's there by default when you are searching. Then you have the headers. Headers are some secretive data that are passed through the request. So when you send a request, some headers are gone by default. As you can see, by default, Postman sends a few headers like content length, host, user agent. So mostly when you're using a browser, the user agent will be the name of your browser. Then accept, the accept encoding, and the connection type. Now body is where we give our data. Headers can also be used for authorization, authentication, but body is where we give the data. For example, if you're creating something, you can give the data for that here. So you go body, raw, and then here you can choose JSON, since we are sending JSON data. Now if we come back here, you can see we are having the title, the body, and the user ID that we have to give. So for that, let's create a title, a body, and also a user ID. There you go. Now what will happen if you click send is it will go ahead and send the request, and as you can see, it's created a post with the ID 101. Next, I've created a new tab, and let's have a look at how we can go ahead and update a post. So for that, you can use the put or patch, but as you can see the documentation, they're using both of them. For now, let's have a look at using put. So you go here and change your method to put, and you give in the URL. So it's our same URL as we used in the beginning. So there you go. And now here we'll need to give in the data that we want to change. So once again, we're gonna go to the body, choose raw, and make it JSON because we're sending JSON data. And here you're gonna give the entire thing. So for example, we want the ID to stay as 1. We want the body to be something new, and we want the title to be new title, and we can keep the user ID as 1. Now if we send this request, you'll see that it's updated. Now it's not actually updated because this is not our own API, but if we were creating our own API and testing this out, then this would work just fine, and it would update in our database also if you connected it to a database. Now if you want to delete something, that's very easy. All you need to do is go ahead, change the delete request, remove all the data, you can pass as none, and then give the URL. So we're deleting the first post, and if you hit send, that should automatically delete the post, and you're getting an empty object. That's because the post does not exist anymore. Now that's just the basic of how we can test APIs with Postman. Next, let's go a little more further and use the Open Weather Map API, where you can go ahead and use an API key and authenticate and get your information. So first, what you'll need to do is to go on to openweathermap.org. I'll leave a link to this also in the description. And once you're here, you need to go ahead and sign in. So I've signed in already. This is completely free. And then you go to my API keys. In here, if you don't have one already, you have to go ahead and create an API key. So you give a name here and click generate. Once you have got that, you have to copy it and keep it to yourself. Don't share this with anybody. I'll leave a link to this page in the description, but this is the part of the documentation where it shows how we can create a request to get the weather from the city name. So if you go here, you can see built-in API request by city name, and it'll take you here. So we can just go copy that, switch to Postman, and paste the link here. So obviously this is a get request because we're getting data, and then here we're giving the city name. So the city name, for example, I'll give Doha, and then the app ID, which is our API key. So we should get that from where we had before. So I'm just gonna go ahead onto my API keys and copying that. We can just paste it out here, and then if you hit send, hopefully it should give us the data. As you can see, we're getting the weather data for the place that I've specified. So it gives the country, the sunrise time, the sunset time, and the temperature, and all those things that we need. Also, you can see how it automatically passed all the parameters. So as you can see, as I explained before, our parameters are given here after question mark in the URL. So we give one parameter, ampersand to separate, and then the next parameter. Now again, if you had more params, you give an ampersand, and then you have something else here. Now another feature of Postman is how we can go ahead and save our requests. So for example, if we are having our own application, and if you want to save all these requests we are testing, you can go here and click on the save button, which will open up this dialog box where you can choose where you want to save it. So by default, it will save in your profile, and you can create a folder also. So for example, you can create a new folder. So you can click here, new collection, my app, click create, and if you go in there, you can save your request here. So if you click save, you can see the request is saved and there's no more orange dot here, but it determines that it's not saved. So you can save all these requests. So for example, I can save this request and I can change it as delete post, click save, go here and save this as create post, and there you go, all the requests are saved. And if you want to, for example, change this and save it as something else, go ahead and save as, and you can change this as now get weather by city, and you hit save again. Now if you want to see all your requests, you open this up, and here in the collections page you can see everything. If you want to delete something, 3 dots and delete, and you can see it was deleted successfully. You can also duplicate and you can add documentation for your request and do a lot more things with this. You can also see all the parts of your collection. So this collection, you can see I have a previous collection I created. You can delete that also by just clicking delete. Now also in this open weather map API that we did, you can go here, go to authorization and choose API key and give in app ID here, because that's what we're giving here. And if you copy this and paste this here, you can see it'll automatically be linked. So if you go here now, you can see you can click on go to authorization. It automatically takes us to the authorization page where we are given this query parameter. Sometimes we'll also be able to send this as headers, but I'm not sure if open weather map supports sending our API key as headers, so we can just keep it as a query parameter. But headers are a much more safer option since we're not exposing our API key in the URL itself. Also, if you go back here where we see our response data, you'll be able to see all the cookies sent. Now since it's open weather map is not sending back any cookies, we won't see any, but you'll be able to see them if it is from our API. Headers, you can see all the response headers, and you can see the test results. Now we're not testing anything here, so we don't have anything here, but you'll be able to see that too. Also here it shows how long the request took and the size of the data. Oops, there you go. Now once again, if you have edited something here, you can just command S to save that, and automatically get saved. Here as you can see, by mistake I created something, so you can just go ahead and delete that off. Now what we just had a look at is how we can create HTTP requests, but Postman can also create other types of requests like GraphQL requests and Socket.io WebSocket connections also. So you can try that out too if your API supports them, and test out how those things work with Postman. So thanks for watching. That was it for this video. We had a look at Postman and how we can create requests, save them, and much more. So if you found the video helpful, go ahead and subscribe to my channel for more such content, and like this video, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video.